everyone. Welcome to Nom Talk Network. We are here to talk about Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby because one's not a good time to talk about The Great Gatsby. This is totally not like a like I just like bringing up The Great Gatsby makes me think of like, okay, this is a study group. We're gonna talk about this movie based on the book that everyone has to read in high school. No shade. Great Gatsby is actually my favorite book of all time. So I'm excited to revisit it with y'all. And like one of our guests, Michael Flores, pointed out, Elizabeth Debicki is in this movie, and she can be seen currently in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as a Sovereign. So it kind of still connects very loosely to the zeitgeist of what's going on this weekend. Without further ado, I want to introduce everyone. Michael Flores, we'll start with you. Just, tell the people what you do.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Mike, or you call me Mikey if you want. I'm just do a lot of work behind the scenes, like PA production and stuff like that. But yeah, and today I'm just having some Dunkin' for
Yes. What are
nothing
you
like
having in the Dunkin' bag? I want to know. What are the
I had like I have a Boston cream and Bavarian cream.
Amazing.
It's the white powdered one, so it's like super messy, and I don't want to like
Yeah.
spill it all over the place and have like white all over my black shirt. So it's kind of like I'm gonna eat it sparingly, but yeah. And then I had like a nice coffee. That's my dinner. It's like breakfast for
Awesome.
dinner, I guess.
Breakfast for dinner. We love that. Breakfast food all day.
There you go.
And we also have Laura.
Hi. Yeah, I'm a journalist and a geek, like a huge geek and a huge like musical buff regarding this. Like this is not musical, but the music is just beautiful because Baz Luhrmann does everything amazing with like music and production value. Huzzah! And so I'm here. But I'm here. I'm so excited to talk about it because I watched it again recently, but I watched it like when it first came out because like it was like talked about as the next big thing. It was before like I was really writing, and so I'm like, oh, cool to revisit something that it's great because you get to revisit like his work back then and now with Elvis and his other stuff. So it's like really cool to see this. And then also, what am I having? I'm having it's AAPI month, so I'm having Vervet which is a it's a canned cocktail, sparkling cocktail. So I'm
Ooh.
having sake and tonic Vervet. I'm not getting
Oh my
paid by
God.
sponsorships or anything, and I just really like their stuff because it's Asian
That
owned
sounds
and
delicious.
yeah, but farm to
Yeah.
can, so everything is naturally and made in California. So this one's margarita mule, and I have the sake and tonic, so I'm drinking those tonight, and then I'll be getting pizza soon.
Oh, yum. Yes.
That's not Asian
Boston
owned,
cream
but I think
pie.
maybe they're
So
the
much better than my
executive.
dinner.
Very East Coasty sort of foods. I don't have any East Coasty sort of foods. I have a my own take on a green tea mint latte that I made. I'm obsessed with teas and mint. I probably can even make a mint julep at some point, which I should have thought of earlier, but I don't think I have the right alcohol for it. And just
That's
like
appropriate
some
because
rice. Yeah.
mint julep because tomorrow's the Kentucky Derby.
Oh,
So
yes. And then they have them in the movie. So
Yeah.
yeah.
yes, I will probably get a mint julep after this. But yeah, just have some rice and some like beef, meat and potatoes. That's not meat and potatoes. That's meat and potatoes and rice. um, but yeah, no. The Great Gatsby, like I said, is my favorite book. So, for me, I wasn't a journalist yet when the movie came out. I can't remember, how old I was. I will leave that to be ambiguous. But yeah, I remember being very excited for this movie. I love Baz Luhrmann growing up. Moulin Rouge and Romeo and Juliet were two of my favorite movies growing up. And yeah, like this, when it was announced, I was excited. I did follow the casting like a nerd. Like I am a nerd. So I would be on IMDb trying to see like, oh, who could it be? And for me, for the longest time, I really wanted Gatsby to be played by Ryan Gosling. That was like my original
Mm.
like fan cast before the movie came out. Were y'all sort of like peripherally like interested in the movie before it was released? And did you like have any ideas on like casting?
Well, no, when Leo was cast, because like I knew he was trying to be back then, he was trying to be like a serious actor. He was doing Departed and all that stuff. So with The Great Gatsby, because like we all had to read it in high school.
Yeah.
Like I know that was like we had to. Um, my main thing was I wanted Nick to be like Nick was important to me as a thing. I didn't imagine Tobey Maguire at all. I think I was like who was like because like with the Gatsby Ryan Gosling would have been perfect actually. That was and even now. But when Leo was cast, I was like happy about it. Nick, I was like Tobey Maguire. I knew him from Spider-Man, so it's kind of like I don't know much because he didn't really do much after he did small parts. So I'm kind of like, okay, let's see how this goes. I was okay with it.
For me, I when I heard about this movie, I didn't know if there were any casting before this. So when I heard about it, it was already cast basically. So I didn't have any like thoughts of who should be what and anything like that. I did like the fact that it was Leo and Toby who were supposedly best friends at the time of this movie. And it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of a cool thing to play those two in the same movie. And then when I saw the rest of the cast, I'm like, oh, this is like all the hot up and coming actors. Carey Mulligan was like huge back then.
Oh
And I think she's
yeah.
still very, very, very
Yes.
well liked now. So I mean, yeah, it was a good cast. I didn't have any any wish list, but I thought it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing my job before it was a job in my life. Yeah, like I said, I was like lurking on IMDb and on message boards, being like, who's gonna be who? Like, who do you imagine being like Daisy and all this? But yeah, like I said, like I was like, oh, into Ryan Gosling being it. I was really excited about Toby because I'm also like a huge Spider-Man fan, and even before Spider-Man or around Spider-Man, he was doing some like dramas in between and stuff. So I knew he had like the chops for it. Um, Carey Mulligan, I was very excited for because she just had this like mysterious air, was an indie darling. The one that shook me though was Joel Edgerton because I was like,
Yeah.
hang on, I've seen his face before. Who is he? And then it was like, it's Uncle Owen from the prequels.
Yeah.
I was like, what? They have Uncle Owen from the prequels going to be Tom Buchanan, like the evilest dude ever? What? Yeah, that drove me crazy. And for the longest time, I was like when the movie came out, I was like, whoa, this guy played Tom Buchanan. He was so evil. Maybe he should have been Darth Vader or Anakin.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he was, I think, one of the stronger cast people in this that was unexpected for sure. And then Isla Fisher, a comedian. Elizabeth Debicki was like relatively unknown at the time. So I think overall, Baz like really got like a really good core ensemble for this.
You know what I remember now? Who I wanted for Daisy in my mind? Keira Knightley.
Ooh. Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah. Actually, I remember I was like, because I was obsessed with her like since like 2007 and then beyond. And then I was just like Keira Knightley and everything. So I think of that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Joel, like he when after this role, I couldn't see him as anything but an asshole. Like in anything he ever played after that, I was like, he's an asshole. Like he could be the nicest like character in like a hero in whatever thing he did, but he was an asshole after this for me.
There's so many actors who are like that. Like for me, Saoirse Ronan was that for the longest time. Like after seeing her in Atonement, I hated her. Like not her as a person. I just was so mad at her performance, which is incredible because obviously it's a testament to her performance that she angered so many people in Atonement that like I could not watch her in anything. I was that mad. It pretty much broke, and like that whole thing broke when I saw Little Women, and then I was like, okay, I like her now. I'm okay with her now. But yeah, I totally see that for Joel Edgerton. What was everyone's relationship with The Great Gatsby before the movie came out? Like I know we all mentioned that we all had to read it in high school. Did y'all like it in high school?
I liked it. I don't remember what grade I read it at. When is it? It's a high school book usually, right?
Yeah.
But so I guess around maybe seniors. I don't remember when, but I really liked it. I don't think it captured my imagination like it did for a lot of other people. For me, it was just like an assignment. I read it. I was like, okay, it was whatever it is. And it was interesting to me. But and I knew there was a movie of it previously with the Robert Redford.
Robert
But I
Redford.
just once I read the book and then I just never really felt that interested in seeing the movie. But it's definitely considered an American classic. So I mean, I appreciate it for that. Yeah.
Like, I know where we had to read it because there's so much symbolism, and I appreciate that, like learning about it and what Gatsby represented. Jay Cass represented with his ideals and everything. But I still felt sad because I really like. For me, I like things to end in a happy note. And I think back then in high school, I was like, oh, I don't like the sadness. I don't like that Gatsby,
Yeah.
like was killed, and I don't like that Myrtle, and I like all that stuff. Like, I just don't like ending on a sad note. And then, I think back then we all, even now, we understand why these things have to happen, but back then you're just like, no, it's so sad. And then watching it too, like in like back in the old one, and then with 2013, it's just like, it's still like, it hits you because like the hero doesn't win. And
Yeah.
there's a reason behind it, but it's still like, I don't like that. And like, I think it still brings me memories of like, I don't like that. Like, it could be a beautifully told story. It could be like and it's like done wonderfully done, but it's just still just a sad moment for me. Like, just knowing that it doesn't end in a happy note.
Yeah, for sure. I like, obviously there's reasons we read it in high school. I'm actually surprised it's not banned. I think, especially with
Yeah.
what it has to say about like the 1% versus everyone else who comes from marginalized backgrounds, and specifically talking about the nouveau riche through Gatsby being like a self-made person, even if his means were, partially sketchy, but also partially being taken in by, someone. And he was a military man. So I think like, it kind of spoke a lot to um people who grew up in the era of actually being able to make something of themselves out of nothing. But like you said, it is very sad and tragic because you have Myrtle and Gatsby who ultimately get stomped on by the rich and careless, um, in the pursuit of their dreams and desires and stuff. So kind of thought it was such an early introduction to that sort of systemic dynamic that we're still battling to this day. For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like seeing that ending happen each time is always so sad. And like, you have it be told by Nick's perspective, which definitely gives you like the perspective of someone who goes through both worlds, essentially, which I think Toby did a really good job in the movie, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I was like really pleasantly surprised with his performance, like, because I think like I wasn't involved, like, as like you said, like back, it was like 10 years ago, and like, so it's like, it's so great to see him in this. He was great. Everyone did a great job in this. All the performances were really really well done. Um, I just felt like, oh, I understand they're trying to do symbolism, and I think the reason why it didn't get banned because it's white characters. So,
Yeah.
in like
True.
regarding that,
Although I meant to bring this up. There's a theory that's been going around on Tumblr and Twitter that Gatsby is coded for someone who is white passing, and that
That's
you could read
interesting.
the book
Huh.
with that interpretation in mind, and it works somehow. So I like that. Like, I know it recently became part of public domain, and I really hope that we see like a take on the material that
Yeah.
embraces that, because that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
also liked Nick as I mean, sorry, Toby as Nick too, because I'd seen his stuff before, like in Saturday House Rules. I knew he could pull off this
Mhm.
character, and I think that's the one character that I actually identified more with. And I think you're supposed to identify more with him as the reader, because it's from his perspective and everything. So it's like, I think that was the one character that I was really looking forward to, like them nailing, and I think they got it with him. At least rewatching it again, I felt like that was a good choice for me. And then like you said, the symbolism too about the class struggle and everything like that. At the time when I was growing up, like I just didn't really. I mean, that was the lesson they were trying to teach us at school and stuff. But at the same time, I just wasn't really. I didn't lived enough, obviously, to understand that how important this was. And of course, now that rewatching it, it kind of like makes way more sense of why they have us read this in school and stuff, because it really is. It speaks to a lot of things that you have to come to terms with when you get older.
Yeah, I think it's something you appreciate though when you get older, because when
Yeah.
you're younger, you were like, this is an assignment.
Yeah.
And it didn't affect us regarding I feel like this is like a talk on like this feels like a breakdown of like a college class where you're breaking down like the symbolisms. No, but it is like you're like while in school, it's like you had to break down these classes and like the levels of class, and like the rich, like you said, the 1% will always win, and that's what happens in the end. Like George, all the three that that were low in the low social economic all perished. And so it becomes one of those like the rich get away with it, and then that's why it's like sad to me, because like it's like I don't want that to be what happens. And so like I feel like the book should be read throughout your life
Oh
too,
yeah, for
in
Yeah.
sure.
college too. But because when you're in high school, you don't really understand it. You understand it based on explaining it. But once you live your life and we see it go on, I mean,
Mhm.
nowadays, like I feel like high school students do understand, like because they're more. The internet is more
Oh yeah.
apparent.
Yeah.
But
They're more socially
And the
active.
yeah, and
the
there's more
rich
social
people
action.
tell on themselves.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
like there's so much, and like there's the age of technology where we get to talk about it, versus in high school, like the internet, like there's internet, but everyone used like live journal and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so like now it's like it's now I feel like yes, it's an appropriate time to really talk about that, because like social movement has helped it a lot. Um, but yeah, like having this movie, I feel like actually also kind of moved it further to another medium where everyone gets to watch it. And I'm glad Baz Luhrmann did, because not many people, even though we had to read in high school, it didn't stay with us. So I think that having a movie and this platform and this big, it gives us another story to look at it and to reevaluate Gatsby back in the day. And it's nice that we get to talk about it 10 years later, because it's still super, super relevant in terms of like, excuse me, in terms of like just what we're living through of like Elon Musk and all that stuff, like how
Yeah.
and even with the writer's strike, the 1% is always gonna be like taking over while the little guys suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're like losing so much money per day that is like a fraction of what's being asked for.
They're only asking for
wild.
2%. Anyway, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
I know.
whole nother thing.
Union strong.
Yeah, we're
We're
solidarity,
union
guys.
strong.
Yeah, there you go.
Solidarity. Yeah, so we have a comment from Princess of D. 11th grade, can never forget, loved it, read it again in my 20s, and was very pleased with Leo because I came up when 95 Romeo and Juliet was everything. And no, yeah, like Romeo and Juliet definitely put Leo on the map for sure.
Yeah.
And just even like Baz Luhrmann, so we were talking about like the perspectives of some of the social things that come up in this movie. It's interesting that Baz Luhrmann's kind of like Nick Carraway in a way, where he's like, he's not American, which is, surprising to have this great American novel be told by an Australian person who is incredibly talented. And but I also think it's powerful in that he's able to be like Nick and really be this sort of like, not, the word isn't like impartial, but like he was able to navigate the themes without necessarily siding with like the 1% and stuff.
Mhm.
And like I would even give him some credit with Elvis, because he did include that Elvis took his style and musical sort of like inspirations from Black culture, and like that wasn't left out. Like I've seen other Elvis like documentaries where they completely leave that out and like totally
Yeah.
like
Very
erase
whitewashed.
that. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
um that's the like really cool thing about Baz Luhrmann as a filmmaker, is that he provides that nuance of being an outside perspective in the same way that sort of Nick Carraway provided that in the book about the people he was interacting with. And like, you know, like Romeo and Juliet is everything, obviously.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think Baz did like I really would like when I was reading like watching it and reliving it and reading about it just to prepare. Like Baz Luhrmann, he just is able to elevate the story by bringing you to that era. You know, like the production value. Moulin Rouge is one of my favorite movies of all time. One of them, like totally top five. And he's able to like kind of bring you there, like with the production, because reading it, it's like it sounds glamorous and you know about it. Robert Redford's time, like they didn't have the budget and the filmography, but technology. But here we get it's like 2013, and they just did a beautiful job with the production, the costumes, and bringing you into this world with the glam, like the glam, like and glamorize it, which is I know a lot of people like said, oh, you know, Fitzgerald would not have liked that. That's the whole purpose of like showcasing that. But I think Baz Luhrmann did a great job balancing the ugliness and the beauty. Because there's like, even though it's showing this like razzazz, it's like also showing like the horrible like side to it too. It's like I want you to focus on this razzle dazzle, but I want you to know this horrible story is happening.
Yeah.
So I thought that it was great that we got his style onto this story because Baz Luhrmann is known for his razzle dazzle. So I'm really glad that, you know, this is the perfect story for that.
Yeah, I
For
mean,
sure.
Baz Luhrmann is he's all about spectacle and like making everything bigger than it should be. It seems to be, you would think. So I think that's the beauty of, like you said, like of him doing these kind of movies, because like he takes movies that are like, you know, Romeo and Juliet, like that, you know, and Gatsby, that were assignments and kind of tedious for us to do as kids. But because he's so good at bringing spectacle to it, making it a big deal, it catches your attention, and that's what I think that like for me, like I think as I've gotten older, I kind of gotten away from his style as far as the director goes, because he's very, I mean, he's very big, he's very audacious and stuff, but um uh I think my sensibilities have kind of changed as I've gotten older, but I still appreciate the fact that like he does bring it to like these movies that should be seen by a bigger audience, and because he does the big casting, like the huge stars, the trailers are just amazing because like you see all the stuff that goes into it. Then like it'll draw all these people that are like, oh, I remember that book when I was a kid. Now I'll check out this, you know, this big Hollywood production of it, you know. And I think that's what he brings to it, is that it adds to the curiosity and to like, you know, to get people more into it than they were back when they originally read the properties like Romeo and Juliet and stuff like that. Yeah.
Definitely. I know we've been like, you know, singing the praises of Baz Luhrmann and his style, but we all like kind of agree that we're in the same ballpark of it being like a 3 to 3.5 rating. Do y'all think it's because, you know, sometimes Baz Luhrmann's maximalism out maximalizes the characters and talent that he has attached? Because like I felt like it, as much as I thought that Leo looked the part as Gatsby, he kind of felt muddled to me in a way that, like, you know, as someone who's been like a fan of that character, like for me, Gatsby was everything. I totally did that fangirl thing where I totally based my entire personality off of Gatsby. So like for me, it didn't like meet, but that also could be like a fangirl sort of expectation where it's like no one's ever gonna like reach that sort of like mental picture of that character. Although I still think Ryan Gosling would have met that for me. But yeah, like I just feel that like somehow Leo's performance was like like muddled in a way. I don't know if that makes sense.
I could see that. I mean, I think that partly it has to do with um I think the ensemble cast that he's surrounded with, you know, also. I think it's kind of, I mean, I hate to say, but I think a lot of the cast outshined him a lot
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
movie. So it's kind of like, and I think it's because, I mean, he's super talented, but Carey Mulligan is so talented, and Joel Edgerton is so talented, and and Toby, and like they're all really talented, and I don't know. I think it's more of I hate to say it, it's kind of exposed DiCaprio as being a movie star and a good actor, but not a great actor. You know what I mean? Possibly. I don't know.
No, I completely understand. I completely agree with you regarding that. Because like, although it was like the pizzazz and like it sparkled, everything was just beautiful. But that was just it. There's no depth
Mhm.
behind it. It was just everything was just layered, beautiful, beautiful. But there's nothing deeper behind the eyes, behind the smiles and everything. It just felt like okay, like I'm not going to compare it to Babylon because Babylon was but
Hmm.
Yes.
Babylon had the razzle dazzle that that is like wow, surface level gorgeous, but then the depth behind it, there was nothing there, and I
Mhm.
felt like performances were good, but it wasn't cohesive enough for me. Where I was
Right.
just like, oh my god, like this is getting like so deep. Like it was just watching like, oh, that's pretty good. Okay, move on. Razzle dazzle. And I'm like, oh wow, it's everything on the surface is beautiful, but there's nothing deep behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I also don't know if it's maybe exactly like Michael you said, where it exposed Leonardo DiCaprio, who yes is a good actor, but it like exposed how his talent is very movie star based and obviously earned and stuff because he's been
Oh
in
yeah.
so many iconic roles. But it was hard to see him as this person that came out of nothing, um, and like created this little empire to get the girl of his dreams because at the end of the day you're like, but that's Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
Romeo.
it's like
Thank you. Because I was like when I think of back then when he was first cast, I'm like, how can you not fall in love with this guy? Even when he's like poor and had to go to the war and he's like talking to you and like it's like he has pretty privilege, like
Hmm.
if Daisy Buchanan won't love him, it is so easy for anyone to love him. It's not like I
yeah,
think there's an issue of like, but then the acting wise, like I felt like yeah, even though you have pretty privilege, you could still make yourself kind of ugly in a way. Like, like
yeah,
Bill Edgerton, beautiful man, beautiful man. I hated his guts in this,
yeah,
Hmm.
because who he played. So he was not attractive to me. So I'm like, Leonardo DiCaprio, you're always pretty, you're always attractive. That it's hard to believe all this stuff.
definitely.
Yeah.
Like there's so many scenes where I was like, he's being severe, like he's being like severe when he's not being charming, but the severeness was a little like one note. I don't know. I feel uncomfortable criticizing Leonardo DiCaprio because
No, he's improved within
yeah,
the 10 years. Like, when he won the Academy Award, finally. But no one was nominated for anything in this movie other than production and costume.
Yeah. No, I also wonder if maybe it's a product of the book itself. Like maybe the characters weren't as deep as we thought they were, and there was
true.
nothing for them to pull from. I
Hmm.
don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe we were just assigning things to these characters that we thought that there was more to them than there actually was, and it was kind of like exposed in this movie that it really isn't. It's more about the story, I guess, and not so much the characters.
yeah,
In as far as the book goes, but I think in a movie you kind of have to like dig deeper and try to find more about the character. And I don't think there was anything to dig deep into Gatsby's character. It was just all there
true.
on paper already.
Yeah, and
So
it was also everything we know about Gatsby for the most part until he's introduced, is told through other people's sort of perspectives, and there's a mysticism that's created about him before he
mhm.
shows up. So I don't know if maybe Leo decided to play it not living up to the maximalism of what other people were saying about him and played it like kind of more grounded and it's not that deep. you know
Yeah.
which I mean that also works.
Yeah, but I mean, it's great because like I don't like everyone just did a great job, but it was just okay. Like everyone, it was
Yeah,
like they were great performances, but it just
Mhm.
again not cohesive enough for me.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those like challenging books to probably adapt to because, you know, of like the stylized version of like the story being very like um told through like these different fragments, and you don't find out the entirety of what happened between the two, like for example like Daisy and Gatsby till like way later on.
Yeah.
But you know, and there are just a bunch of like choices too that I was like um wondering if they entirely worked with, like, did the music work for y'all, like the out of time music into like the present music or the modern music in being infused with the music of that era? Did that work for y'all?
I think I accepted it because it's Baz Luhrmann. I was fine with it. Again, like the everything was beautiful, but it was just fine, you know, the layers. But I mean, I was okay with it because knowing his way of style. If it wasn't Baz Luhrmann, maybe it would be out of the thing for me. But I think I had the mindset of like, oh, I'm going to go into watching the Baz Luhrmann, and it better have music. I mean, the soundtrack Lana Del Rey is amazing. Like I'm obsessed with like with the song for that. Young and Beautiful, but like I
And Beyonce's cover of Back to Black,
oh like the
so
music
good.
was fine. It's just maybe because I'm so used to his style being kind of like that, like where it's like he wants it to be more relatable. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I was fine with it.
Nowadays, I'm not so much. I don't like it, but I think at the time, like you said, it's Baz Luhrmann, so you understand that that's what's going to happen. You go into it knowing that that's what he does, and so it didn't bother me at the time. Nowadays, it does bother me. I feel like the story. I would love to see a story that was bigger, but not Baz Luhrmann big, and like you said, maybe possibly with his casting choices, like if Gatsby was white passing, then maybe something like that.
Oh, that's more
Where
depth.
I think that would like it would enhance the story and bring it back to the story and not so much the glitz and the glamour. You know what I mean? But of course, you still have to have some of that because it's Gatsby. But I mean, yeah, as far as the music goes, you know, I love the music when I was listening to it, and I'll probably still download the soundtrack again and just re-listen to it again. But yeah, it did bother me. I think I don't know why it didn't bother me as much for like other things he's done, but for this one, it really did because I think the music of this era, it kind of it's a character in its own, and by him kind of taking it and twisting it around to be more modern, he took away a character almost like a feel of what it was like to live in this era. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, at times it was distracting. There were moments where I'm like, oh, I pause. It does take you out a little bit because it's supposed to keep you in, like what Michael said. So I don't know. Like for me, it's like, oh no, it's Baz
I mean,
Luhrmann.
like when that
There's
the Black Eyed Peas needle drop happens, I was kind of taken out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I was just like honestly, I was just like, oh, Baz Luhrmann. Like
Yeah.
that's like mine. That was my mind. I'm like, oh, Baz Luhrmann. I was just like, okay, this is how he does. So like, you know, and
Yeah.
but yeah, it took me out a little bit, but then I just went back in just accepting who he was. I think if it was a different director, I've been like, what the F is this? You know? But thinking about it, I'm just like, you know, this is overall, it was an entertainment movie. I don't know if it was an entertaining Gatsby movie.
That's exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if there's been an entertaining Gatsby movie.
I feel like it lost a lot of the symbolism, you know, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
signs of hope, what Gatsby represents, what George represents. And like I was just like, there's not enough George to really like get the desperation of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like and you know, just women aren't treated well. So I'm just like, it's
True.
a Gatsby movie, so it's a Gatsby book. So but
And
yeah, like
there's ways to kind of like modernize and justify why women went along with things back in
mhm.
the day. Like I really love what a Greta Gerwig did with in Little Women with Florence Pugh's character
Oh
when
yeah.
Mhm.
she had like that whole monologue about like why she is like why marriage is important to her and like a state having a station, you know, because she can't just get a job like she would want and stuff like that. So like I feel like, you know, if there was more nuance to that in the take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it would help like sort of make it more palpable blah blah words, you know what I mean. Like it would make the pill easier to swallow when we see Daisy ultimately make her choice,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Well,
Yeah.
like what I'm touching on what you said right there about Little Women. It's like there have been so many adaptations of Little
Oh,
Women,
so many.
but I think I think until Greta Gerwig finally got to it, then it found the right voice. And I think Gatsby hasn't found the right voice yet to adapt it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the best Gatsby is yet to come. But until they find the right director for it, and Baz Luhrmann wasn't the right director for it, then it's just gonna be either very plain, very boring, an assignment, or it's gonna be an overblown spectacle designed to bring people in, but still there's no substance to it. It needs the right director to bring that out, and they haven't found it yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. It needs the Muppets.
I don't know about George shooting like, a Muppet Gatsby. Like,
Oh my God.
I don't know how, or when Myrtle gets like run over.
I
don't
know, right?
I don't know
It'd be
how
so
I feel
comical.
about a Muppet.
If this was the Muppets, I think George would be the Swedish chef, maybe,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
and then Merle would be Janice.
Yeah, I could see.
I don't know who.
Oh my God, we have to cast the
You have
Great
to cast
Gatsby
the
with
Muppet
Muppets.
version now.
Yes.
Gonzo would have to be Great
Nick.
Gatsby. The
I
Great
was gonna say
Gonzo.
Nick. I was saying Nick because he's like the narrator, like the main character.
But he's also like, oh yeah. But who would play Gatsby? Like Muppet Gatsby.
Oh,
But you know who should play Eagle? No, Eagle. Tom
oh,
yeah,
he should be Tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eagle. I'm like, Sam
Oh
the
yeah,
Eagle.
he's got the Buchanan eyebrows too.
Right?
He should
He's
be
just
totally
like,
be it.
Mhm.
what are you doing?
Mhm. I mean, it kind of leaves it to like where obviously people would want to see. I mean, I would want to see
Kermit would be
and
Nick because he's like
I
an
would say
everyman.
I think Kermit would be Nick and Gonzo.
Yeah.
I could see Gonzo as Great Gatsby. Like
the
he's a lot
Great
because
Gonzo.
Gonzo has lied or is exaggerated everything.
Mhm.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. Gonzo exaggerates everything. So I definitely believe it's Gonzo.
But then would Camilla be the chick? Would that be Daisy?
Yeah.
His chicken? Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. Because like she's done a flapper outfit before.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So we have
Sam
we're
the
gonna have to
Eagle
have
is a
Muppet.
bird.
Public
So
domain.
she's like,
We should just do it.
yeah, Sam the Eagle is a bird, and then she's a bird, so she's like, I gotta be with my bird kind.
You solved it.
Yeah.
Solved it.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. But Daisy has always represented selfishness and social climbing too. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, I'm trying to think of
Who would be Jordan? Miss Piggy would be Jordan.
I could
Miss
see
Piggy
that.
would be
I can see
Jordan.
that.
I could
I
definitely
totally
see that.
Like
But
a
then-
very
Yeah.
angry golfer.
But the thing is, she needs
Wait,
to be the center of attention all the time. So I don't know if she would do
if she could handle.
like
Would
I
be
feel
funny
like
because it would be
I
a gag of her trying to steal the movie.
Yeah.
I guess I can also imagine Miss Piggy running over someone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Who would be?
So
Who would Fozzie play though? Fozzie needs to be in it at some point.
he's always a jazz person. Waka waka waka.
Oh my gosh.
He'll be like in the jazz band and
yeah.
and that
That
at his parties.
Or Gatsby's accomplice guy. The guy that he works with
mobster?
on the
Oh,
shady
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh my God. I want to see this, but also I don't want to see like
Muppet death.
we just like, woo, 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 and I don't want to see that.
Oh my god.
I don't want.
Okay,
I mean, it
real
would be a
talk,
Disney. It'd be a Disney Plus thing then, so I don't know how they'd
Plus
censor the
thing.
entire thing. I don't know.
Oh my God. But
Okay.
yeah, but
Oh,
Joel
man.
Edgerton is so good though overall.
Mhm.
Like and Sam the Eagle would be great.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, but real talk, who would Joel like to see in a potential like next take of The Great Gatsby, like either directing or writing and starring in?
I would love to see a woman take the lead. The only problem is about Great Gatsby is that you have to either sacrifice the pizzazz over the meatiness of it, because I feel like it's really difficult because it's really hard to balance like the flashy production and like really hardy, meaty stuff of Fitzgerald. You know, like Babylon tried, and like bless their hearts, like we're trying to bring out a Hollywood story with the flashiness, but I feel like the flashiness outshined it. Versus this one too, I feel like the flashiness kind of outshined what the meat of the story is, and so I feel like it's really hard to find the balance between like the meat of the story and the flashiness because it's been tried before for other movies. And there's always like a sacrifice of one or the other. But I would like to see a woman like Greta Gerwig do it, but I just feel like she would get to the meat. It's just really hard to get that production of what the
Although
20s.
Yeah.
Barbie might be a way of seeing if she can do both, because I feel like Barbie is a maximalist sort of movie.
Right, she's
Yeah.
good at that. Yeah.
So we're gonna see how she handles that. And Ryan Gosling is in it.
Oh,
Barbie
yeah,
my
yeah.
What if she
Great
just takes
Gatsby?
the entire cast from that movie and just brings it over
Yeah,
for her
just
version?
bring it over. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I would like to
Yeah.
see her do that. And then also
Yeah.
Timothée Chalamet would be great in the role. I think maybe as Gatsby or just actually just Gatsby or Nick
Yeah,
because
he could
he's
play
such a
Nick
great.
too.
He can
Yeah.
play.
I
He
think
can
you
play
do
both.
Nick,
You
the
know what?
voice.
Have him do
Yeah.
both. Like,
I feel like he'd be a great Nick, and who'd be a good like white passing actor to be, because I want to see that. I want to see the next Gatsby be like a white passing actor.
yeah,
Huh.
it's. Oh man, I'm like trying to think of all the like.
I feel like Henry Golding looks like a Gatsby, but I don't know if he could play
I was just
Gatsby.
thinking of him. I couldn't remember his name, but yeah, he does. He could be an interesting take on that.
I don't know how, like I think he's a good actor. I don't know if he's like Gatsby level yet.
Yeah,
I love him
yeah.
to death. I just don't know. I
He's
don't see
very
him.
pretty.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
looking at him.
like he would. I mean, he would be visually. He's like he's great, but it's just really hard to like.
Ooh, what about Anthony Ramos?
I don't think he's passing though, because he looks
True. He does look.
FedEx. Yeah, I think you like. Yeah, it's really hard to say because it then becomes like controversy regarding that.
Yeah, true.
Who was the
Um,
director of The Heights? I can't remember his name right now.
Lin-Manuel Miranda in the Heights. Oh, John
He
Chu,
didn't,
John M. Chu,
he didn't
John M.
direct it,
Chu.
all right? Yeah,
John M.
Chu.
Chu.
Maybe he might be a good choice to
Oh,
direct
John's
it
really good at
because
like dazzle
he's
dazzle.
got some that razzle dazzle. I believe he's an American director, so he kind of probably read the book as a kid.
Mhm.
So and he's got the eye of a non-white director. So I
That's
mean,
true.
he might be able
Mhm.
to bridge the gap maybe because
And
he
he's in
hit
the Warner Brothers family.
yeah, and he's done some big, huge, action or big blockbuster type things, but he also's got the indie sensibilities, I think, and I think he could kind of capture the vibe of the time. But I don't know. That's just off the top of my head, but I can't really think of any other people I would like to see attack this project. As far as actors go, yeah, it's up in the air. I don't know.
Yeah, like, but I definitely Timothée Chalamet would be great because he looks like he's from that era.
Oh, he does.
Just
Yes.
He does.
if he told me he time traveled from the 1920s, I'd be like, oh, okay.
But I feel also that like Gatsby needs to be like a war veteran, and Chalamet doesn't feel like a war veteran to me.
True. True.
So
I
I
mean,
had that with Leonardo as well. I was like,
yeah. But I mean, he's in Dune, and then he's been through shit in Dune. The character.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I don't know, like who. It's what that speaks. The fact that we can't think of anyone speaks to the level of, there's not enough actors that's not like non-white actors that we could think of for these kinds of roles.
Now that you mentioned Dune, though, I think Zendaya as Myrtle would be interesting.
I know. I don't want to see her get hit. We don't want Black women or any woman of color to be the secondary, and
Very
that
true.
there's
Very
major
true.
issues regarding that.
Very true.
I vote Sydney Sweeney.
Actually, Sydney Sweeney would be perfect as Myrtle. Oh, that's good. I'm trying to think of like Yeah, it's so hard to like. What's that actor who was in Prison Break?
Oh yeah, that
Um,
guy. Well, it's crazy because it's like I could have
Wentworth
seen.
Miller. Wentworth Miller.
Mhm.
He's a good actor.
yeah, he
Or
was
I
very good.
mean, Zach Morris if he was younger. Because he
No,
he
he still looks
literally
so Asian
is
no
a white
raisin.
passing
Asian no
actor.
Yeah.
raisin. Asian
Hmm.
no raisin.
True.
Wentworth
True.
Miller, actually, I don't know how old he is, but like from the
He was-
memory of I have in my head, he's great. And he's a great actor. And he has
It's
intense
my
eyes.
it is literally my favorite thing though when you find out when someone's a secret person of color.
Yeah. I had to like remind people, I'm like, this person's Asian. And they're like, what? Zach Morris is Asian? I'm like, yes, Zach Morris is Asian. And there's so many surprise Asians that people are like, what? I'm like, yeah. Like
People forget about Dean Cain too. He's the first Asian Superman.
yeah, we don't
Dean
talk about
Cain.
Dean Cain. We don't talk about Dean Cain. We don't talk about Dean Cain. But yeah, like Avon Georgia. He would be great. He's of the appropriate age now too. You guys know he's half white, half South Asian.
Mm.
He was in Victorious. That's one of my favorites. But he's what was he in that's like everyone knows. Actually, if you Google him, you'll be like, oh, that guy. But he's pretty good.
What about Tom Buchanan and Daisy?
Tom Buchanan.
What about I would be maybe someone like Miles Teller for Tom Buchanan.
Miles Teller.
Or Glenn Powell, since we're talking about
Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell
would
I
be
could
really
see
good
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though like he seems like he'd be a dick. Oh, you know who would be great directing it? Taika Waititi. It'll be funny. I think it'll be hilarious.
I would love Taika Waititi to direct The Muppets Great Gatsby.
Yeah, that would be
interesting.
great.
That would definitely be interesting. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anyone else. Wait, who would be Daisy? Oh,
Yeah,
Keira Knightley.
Yeah, she should
roll back in the day.
She still looks like she could play it. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, she was just Zoe Kravitz, but I mean, the thing is, she has to be Nick's cousin, but Zoe Kravitz is a great actress.
I would love Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah. She's just a great actress in general. God, who? Yeah. Oh, no.
It was easier to cast the Muppets.
Yeah,
I know, it was so much easier to cast the Muppets.
Yes, I think we struck gold there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's coming around to being time. Let's go around and tell everyone where we can find one another. Laura, we'll start with you.
You can find me on Twitter or Instagram on just online platform. You can just go to my website, my name, laurasirikul.com. And you can find my social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Sirikul on Twitter and Sirik on Instagram. And I write for a whole bunch of places. So I write for like Nerdist, Nerd to Color, IGN, Empire, and a whole bunch of other places. So you can find my work when I retweet about them.
And Mike?
You can find me on all socials under gripc47. I do a lot of just posting about random events that I'm at, like concerts and random nerdy things like that. So yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find me, Sabina Graves, on Twitter at Sabina has no R, and on Instagram and TikTok at Going Cool Places. Like Laura, I'm all over the internets. But mostly right now you can find my work over at gizmodo.com /IO9, also known as IO9.com, where I write about a whole bunch of like very nerdy genre stuff, like Marvel movies and fantasy movies and theme parks and all that jazz. I did not just do jazz hands automatically. I've exposed the theater kid in me. And yeah, like I also tweet out all my links. I did a lot of coverage for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and all that you can find online. And coming up, I'll be working on Little Mermaid, which I'm really excited for. But yeah, so follow us in all the places. And if you stumbled upon this while trying to get cliff notes on The Great Gatsby, the book, through the movie, through not having to watch the movie and watching a bunch of millennials talk about the movie, I hope we helped in some way.
Yeah, guys, I have a name. Darren Chris.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's all I had.
Yes. Okay. All right.
He's good.
Thank
Yeah.
you for joining
Good
us,
choice.
and stay tuned at Nom Talk for a bunch of awesome shows and content coming your way soon.